Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to those who listen here on the island of Nevis, those who listen on the island of St. Kitts, those who are listening throughout the Caribbean. I say a special evening to our friends and family and listeners more generally in Anguilla, in St. Martin, in the British Virgin Islands, in the U.S. Virgin Islands, in Puerto Rico, those in Montserrat, Seychelles, Saba, those who are in Barbados and Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago, and yes, down south in Guyana. Wherever you are listening, this is On The Mark. Good evening to friends and family in the United States and Canada, and those in the United Kingdom. I trust you're staying warm. Good evening. Welcome to another edition of On The Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley. I'm the Premier of Nevis, the leader of the Concerned Citizens Movement, but most importantly, for tonight's purposes, I'm the host of this show, and this show is a show that we do every Wednesday from 8 to 10 p.m. for 2 hours of commercial-free talk radio. We still feel that we are the only show of its kind in St. Kitts and Nevis, and this show is commercial-free because it's paid for by the law firm of Daniel Brantley. We say thank you to them. Thank you to all the lawyers there for all they do to keep democracy and freedom of speech as a cornerstone of democracy alive and well. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot going on, as always, and I've been making the rounds, if you will. I was on another show last night, and I try to make myself available as the Premier of Nevis for conversations that matter, for engagements with the general public, where people want to ask questions and people are looking for answers, and I try to provide those answers. But regrettably, I have come to the realization that some of our people really don't listen. They're not minded to listen. They have made up their minds about situations from whatever source they've got the information from. And no matter how much you try to explain, no matter how much you try to articulate what the correct position is, no matter how much you try to give the facts, they are really not interested. And so they simply go off and they repeat the same thing over and over, the same falsehood. And you say to them, no, that is not the case. The government did not buy that building. Yes, the government bought the building. And they just run with it. Why? Because somebody told them so. And I think that we as a population, as an educated population, people with sense, let me use old-time language, people with sense, we need to start to act like we have sense. And we need to start to think about things for ourselves. We need to start to understand that if we disagree with a policy or disagree with the direction that the government may wish to take, it doesn't mean that everybody in the government is corrupt. It doesn't mean that everybody is wrong. We must appreciate and leave some room for the possibility that we might be wrong. That is, that you who disagree, you might be the one who's wrong. It is terribly arrogant of some of us to feel that I don't agree with something and I am the one who's right and everybody else is wrong. And another habit that I see developing in Nevis is people who are seeking to articulate a position, to say they're against something, they like to talk for everybody else. You hear bold pronouncements, Nevisians don't want this. Well, what are Nevisians? And I keep saying to people, speak for yourself. Say what you want or what you do not want. State your opinion. But when you take your opinion, again, it is incredibly arrogant to start to talk about what Nevisians want. How do you know what Nevisians want? Have you spoken to them all? Have you engaged with every Nevisian at home and abroad to know what they want? In fact, I would say that elected officials are more able to speak to what the people want because the people put their trust and confidence in them. They actually elected them to represent them. So when I hear sometimes people articulate a view and try to create this sense that whatever their opinion is the widely held opinion, I think we need to desist from doing that. If you have a problem, state what your problem is and say it is your opinion, it is your problem, that is your view on a matter. But please stop telling us what Nevisians want and what Nevisians think and the majority of Nevisians this and the majority of Nevisians that. Because I sometimes wonder when I hear those who are pontificating and talking about Nevisians, Well, I wonder who the people that I talk to are not in the visions too. Because so many of them have a diametrically opposed position to that which is being articulated by some. I spoke to a gentleman recently, and he started to talk about the proposed Destiny project, and he said, the people of Nevis don't want it. So I said, well, who have you spoken to? He said, everybody. I said, you've spoken to all the people of Nevis? He said, I get around a lot, I talk to a lot of people. I said, oh, I get around a lot too, and I talk to a lot of people. Oh, they're only telling you what they want you to hear. I said, oh, so they're not telling you what they want you to hear. I think we need to, as a people, start to engage in debates that make sense. Articulate our views passionately, of course. I have said repeatedly that you don't need to agree with me. That's okay. I was on a program last night and somebody said, oh, people don't agree with the government in relation to a particular matter, and the government needed to come to the people and get the people's agreement. And I said, imagine, let us just step away for a moment, step back for a moment and imagine if that was the way that any government tried to govern Nevis. Do you realize that nothing would get done? Do you realize that no decisions would be made? Because if every time you had a decision to make, you had to go to the people and get other people's agreement. And I reminded that person when they made the argument that not even Jesus, our Lord and Savior, not even Jesus was able to get everybody to agree. In fact, some so violently disagreed with Jesus that they end up crucifying him. And we must therefore understand that it is a frailty of the human condition, that so long as we exist, we will not always agree on everything. Even party supporters of mine do not always agree with me. They support, but they say, I don't like that decision, or I don't agree with that. What is wrong with that? Nothing is wrong with it. But we need to appreciate that leadership requires those who are put in that position to lead. Not to put their finger in the ear to find out which way the wind is blowing. You know why? Because the wind direction shifts, you know. Sometimes the wind is coming from the east, sometimes it's coming from the west. And if all you're doing as a leader is trying to figure out what direction the wind is blowing in so you know where to go, well, what if the wind shifts on you? What do you do on about face? You must be able to examine all the circumstances, evaluate all the facts, and take a decision with the clear understanding that not everyone will agree with your decision. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people say to me, oh, there's controversy about this or controversy about that. And I said, no, I don't see it as controversy. I see it as democracy at work. I see it as our people having an opportunity to publicly state their opinion on a matter. Even on this very show, they speak to me as the Premier of Nevis and they state their opinions. Sometimes, oftentimes, radically opposed to my opinion. You could not do that unless we had a robust democracy at work here. And so, a lot of times what people see as a bad thing, I actually think it's a good thing. I think it's an indication that our democracy is strong. And even though some of the views may not make sense to us, some of them may not stand up to scrutiny, at the end of the day, the mere fact that our people have the right to express those views speaks to the strength of our democracy. And long may that be so, and all of us should defend that. It is not easy sometimes engaging, because people are saying things which are diametrically opposed to what you believe, and oftentimes diametrically opposed to the truth. But I celebrate the fact that they have the right. And I celebrate the fact that they're comfortable enough, even when they're speaking to the leader of government, to share their views, to share their contrary views, to criticize the leader of government to his face, to tell him that what he's doing doesn't make sense. That we ought not to take for granted. Because in other places, we couldn't do it. In other places, if you did it, there will be consequences. And that is why I keep saying we must celebrate our democracy. But even as we celebrate our democracy and our ability to disagree and to disagree publicly, we ought always to ensure that we're not disagreeable. That we do not lower the bar. We do not lower the standard of conversation. That we keep it high and we engage at a level that ultimately says to the world that we are an educated, knowledgeable, and sensible people. That's what we must do. And so, I encourage people when the phone's open to call. I encourage you to call every show. In fact, someone said to me recently that this show was unique because it's the only political show that is hosted by a politician that not only accepts but invites all shades of public opinion. I like when people use this platform to air their views. I like when people use the platform as an opportunity to articulate their position on any manner and matter of circumstances. I encourage it. I believe it strengthens us all. And I'm not one who gets daunted by criticism. I'm not one who gets confused or somehow will be losing my way or get knocked off my path because of criticism. No. Leadership must be made of sterner stuff. That is why I could say to everyone that if you make decisions that having listened, having heard, having taken on board concerns, having tried your best to meet and ameliorate those concerns, you take decisions which in your opinion, having prayed about it, you feel is in the best interests of the people that you serve, then you have nothing to worry about. Nothing. Because you would have been guided by the very principles by which you were elected to serve. That is, trying to do your best for the people. Sometimes, you know, you have $10,000. That's all you have available to you. You have 5, 6 young people wanting to go off to university. That 10,000 might only be able to support 2. Well, you have to choose 2. And the others and their families will no doubt be disappointed in you. But you have to sit down, you have to evaluate, and you have to say, okay, what will these 2 be studying? You look at the circumstances, and then you make a decision. And once you make a decision, you must be willing to stand by that decision, because your decision was made on the basis of the facts that you had before you, and guided always by what you think is in the best interests of those whom you serve. And once those are your guideposts, you should be comfortable. Not to suggest that you're always right, but comfortable that you made the best decision that you could. And that is why I go about my business on a daily basis as the premier of this island, and I am comfortable that the decisions that I make, the decisions that emanate from our cabinet, are decisions that are made having regard to all the facts and circumstances, and decisions that ultimately we think are the right decisions. And that, my friends, is what leadership requires. A leader who is simply trying to figure out which way the wind is blowing, trying to figure out what today's polls say, is not leading. That person is following. That leader who every time there's an issue, they have to go around and they have to ask everybody, boy, what you think, what you think, what you think, what you think. In my experience, if you go to the bar and you ask 10 people what they think, you're likely to get 10 different positions. So what do you do? What do you do? Do you become fearful? And do you allow that fear then to induce a state of paralysis where nothing gets done? But that is not why you elect governments. And nothing that has moved this country forward since independence and even before has been done without taking a risk. Nothing has been done without leadership that says, hey, we must step out into the unknown. We must go into the ocean, because we'll never know what is in the ocean if we are afraid to leave the shore. Social Security, when it was introduced, I believe it was on about 1970, I was advised that many people were opposed to it. The very idea of taking people's money to provide a safety net which would benefit the poor, the working class, some thought that was anathema. But the leader at the time, Robert Brantley, I believe it was, first national hero, insisted that it be done. You fast forward, you had the introduction of mandatory secondary education for the young people of the country. Again, howls of protest, because that would mean little black boys and little black girls, little poor boys and little poor girls would now be guaranteed a high school education. And yet, the leadership of the day insisted that it had to be done, and it was done. We fast forward again. You had the question of independence for St. Kitts and Nevis. And many said that there should be no independence, because if you had 2 sheep or 2 goats, they would take away 1 from you. That we could not survive. Well, this year it will be 43 years since we are independent. And which of us would not now say that St. Kitts and Nevis has done well? We fast forward again to the Four Seasons Resort, a major investment in Nevis, but which benefited the entire federation and continues to this day, 35 years later, to benefit the entire federation. Again, howls of protest. The white man coming to take over will not be able to use the beach. Where are you going to get coconut and crab from? But Sir Simeon Daniel, our national hero, said it had to be done, and it was done. Look how many families have benefited from that investment. The fisher folk, the farmers. Look how many restaurants on this island survive because of the guests that are sent to them from the Four Seasons. Which of us now, with the benefit of 35 years of hindsight, will not say that it was a brilliant decision? But at the time, the howls of protest. Let's not stop there. Let's talk about the Bank of Nevis. Again, the brainchild of Sir Simeon Daniel. And when the Bank of Nevis came about, the idea came about, Sir Simeon could not even raise money here in Nevis. He went to his friends all around the world. He went to persons who were non-division but who lived here. And he invited 10 of them to contribute $25,000 each. I know the story well, because my father, blessed memory, was one of those 10. And with $250,000, he started the Bank of Nevis. The bank just celebrated 40 years. And when I sat there and I heard the glowing tributes, how Sir Simeon was a genius. He was almost like Moses, leading the people to a more secure financial future. This was brilliant. And I smiled, because as one of the commentators that very night said, that there was no support for the Bank of Nevis when it started. Many divisions said they will not put their savings there because they said it was Sim Daniel Bank. He had built a bank for himself. He and his friends them. We're not going to put our money there. But here we are 40 years later. The second largest financial institution in the country is the Bank of Nevis. They have expanded into St. Kitts in a significant way. They have afforded opportunities for our young people. They have afforded opportunities for our regional brothers and sisters, many of whom are working in that institution. And again, you ask yourself, if Sir Simeon was the type of leader to say, boy, what people are say, boy, me frightened, people don't like the idea. Boy, Nevis people said they're not going to put their money in there. So Simeon went into the ocean. He wanted to know what was out there. He was not afraid. And I say these things to say that at every point in our history, we have had big ideas that had to contend. We have had situations where decisions had to be made. And at every step of the way, there were howls of protests from those who either did not see or could not see or saw but had their own reasons to protest. And the difference that every situation made was the quality of leadership. Leadership that was fearless. Leadership that was strong. Leadership that set a path and said, the people have bestowed their trust and confidence in me, and I shall make decisions for their benefit, even if they are the few who can't see the benefit. When we were to build that water taxi facility there at Wally, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers was charged with that project. The opposition in Nevis had the most to say. They criticized it, said we were destroying the beach. They said all manner of things. Look at it now. The water taxi at Wally has become the principal gateway to Nevis. All of us use it. Kittitians and divisions now hop on the boat, come over for dinner, go back and forth all day, every day, all night. Look at the number of boat operators, the number of vessels, the number of young people who are now captains on these boats. That investment has spawned an entire industry which is based in Nevis 100% and 100% division owned. Now what if the government and Alexis had said, Lord, people are say, no do it. People are cuss. Lord, me too afraid, but people gonna vote against me because them say it's a bad idea. We did it. And it now serves us well. And I smile all the time, you know, because some who are opposed to it use it more than you and I. I see them in their stockings and high heels. I see them in their polyester pants and hard shoe. And I smile. Because I said, look at this. Look at what real leadership can produce. I have coined the phrase, ignore the noise. It is not meant to be disrespectful. What it is meant to do is to say that some people will make noise, regardless. And the Bible speaks to it, you know. I do not pretend to be a biblical scholar, but I well remember a story of when Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt. They were slaves in Egypt. They were in bondage. And when he led them out of bondage, and they went on this journey to try to get to the promised land, and they encountered difficulty because many of them didn't have faith. There was not enough food. There was not enough water. They became tired. You know what some of them said? Moses. They cursed Moses, and they said Moses had brought them out of Egypt to die, and they preferred to go back to Egypt and back into bondage. They preferred slavery over freedom. So these things aren't new. They aren't new. So what if Moses had lost faith? What if he too had said, God, you brought us here to die, and it is better that we turn around and go back to Egypt and beg Pharaoh pardon? Do you realize that those people would still have been in bondage, still have been in slavery? And so guess what happened? Moses had to ignore the noise and press on. Press on. Poor Moses never saw the promised land. Joshua was the one who eventually took them there. But the point about it is that you had the usual naysayers, the doubting Thomases, the noisemakers, who were saying, send us back to slavery because the sun out here too hot. The walking is too much. My foot a hot me. Send me back to the whip, because at least I used to get a meal a day. You bring me out here so I could get hungry. Sometimes you have to ignore the noise. We look at the Newcastle police station. I sat in St. Kitts and I heard a vision. I will never forget that. A vision. Say to the government of the day of which I was a part, told Timothy Harris, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris, who was then the Prime Minister of this country, exactly what Dr. Harris wanted to hear. And with the benefit of hindsight, I believe exactly what was rehearsed before the meeting. And Vision said in that meeting, Nevis no need no police station in Newcastle. Nevis no need no station over Castle. And Vision suggested that all Nevis needed was to buy another vehicle or two and give to the police in Cotton Ground and to the police in Gingerland and tell them to go on patrol. Mark you, this was a time when we had pockets of difficulty in terms of crime in the very St. James area where Newcastle is situate. And that is what was said. And you know why it was said? It was said because Mexico had given to St. Kitts and Nevis money to build 3 police stations. The government in St. Kitts had already built 2. I think one in Deep Bay and one in Tabernacle, if my memory serves. But they had built 2. And they wanted to build a 3rd in St. Kitts. And I spoke up and I said, no. How are you going to build 3 police stations in St. Kitts with the money that has come from Mexico when the Newcastle police station over there is infested with cockroach, rats and mice, where police, men and women, complained that when they even touched the wall, they got shocked. Terrible, atrocious conditions. How could you possibly do all three in St. Kitts when that is the condition? And a Nevis man sat down in the meeting and say, Nevis don't need no police station or castle. Nevis don't need a police station. That is why I give this gentleman called Alexis Jeffers a lot of credit. Because he, as the representative of St. James at the time, he made the decision, supported by the rest of the cabinet, that he is going to ensure that the people of Newcastle and the people of St. James have a police station. And he made a compelling argument. He said, Nisbet Plantation, which was open at the time, is right there. One of the major hotels of the day. The Medical University of the Americas, hosting hundreds of students, is right there. The Wally Beach Hotel is right there. The airport, Van Sam International Airport, is right there. All of them are in St. James. In addition to, obviously, the population, Barnaby, Brick Hill, Butlers, Newcastle, Mount Lily, Fountain, all of these needed a police station to meet the security needs of the community. And Alexis Jeffers started that police station with monies from the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, if I recall correctly. We then got a loan. It was either $2 or $3 million. I think it was $3. From, I believe it was First Caribbean. And we set about doing that police station in Newcastle. It was at the very end of the project that the federal government in St. Kitts finally put in, I think it was $1 million. The overall project came to, I believe, somewhere between 5 and 6 million. Don't have the numbers in front of me, but somewhere in that area. Every time I drive by that police station, I said again, had we listened to the noise, St. James would not have a police station. Because a division sit down in a meeting in St. Kitts and tell them, we don't need no station over there. Buy 2 cars. Give them the cars in Cotton Ground and Gingerland and tell them go patrol. You realize if you have a problem in Castle and you have to call police who got to come from Gingerland or got to come from Cotton Ground, how much distance they have to cover before they could get to you? The people over there always had a police station. But there were those who said it was not necessary anymore. Let us take it away. But again, leadership in the CCM, and in this case, in the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, said we will build that police station because it is the right thing to do for the safety and security of the people of St. James and the wider Nevis. And we set about it, and through the grace of God, it was done, despite the protests and the naysayers. The Mondo track, where our young athletes are now training. 7 of them, I'm told, are going to Carifta. That Mondo track, same protests. Same, you all remember the arguments? Oh, you build a Mondo track by the dump. The flies and the this and all manner of things. We ignored the noise. We built the Mondo track. And when I see people there exercising in the mornings and in the evenings, I see footballers, I see young people, I see the athletes training. I said, thank God for a government that takes decisions. And I can go on and on and on and give you example after example after example. But the position is the same. You need, as government, to take decisions. If you are to move this island and these people that we love forward and upward, you need to take decisions. And the examples are all across the landscape of this island. The house of protests. We don't need this and we don't want that. And at the end of the day, you do it anyway. Because you recognize that sometimes when you're in leadership, you must have a vision that goes beyond what others may see. Now let me get to the meat of the matter. The world is changing before our eyes. The outside world, I regret to say, is becoming increasingly hostile, especially to small island states and especially to people of color, black people. When I hear sometimes they say they're fighting against immigrants and immigration, I think sometimes it's code for the countries, particularly in the global north, to be saying we're fighting against people who are black and brown. The world is becoming more difficult. Every day we get up, we turn on our televisions, we're seeing wars and rumors of wars. It's as if Revelation itself is being fulfilled, as was foretold in Holy Writ that in the last days this would be our lot. And so what are we to do as a small island, as a minnow, as a sprat, trying to navigate an ocean filled with sharks? What are we to do? Are we merely to sit back and sing Kumbaya and say all will be well? Is that what we want our government to do? Or do we want our government to start to take proactive steps to see how best we can provide for our people in light of the shifting sands on which we now are forced to stand? Just a few days ago, we all woke up and yet another war has been started. Iran was attacked by the United States and Israel. And some of you out there listening may well say that has nothing to do with us. We are safe here in Nevis. But I'm here to tell you that nobody is safe. Because whilst we are ourselves not under military attack, we will, I predict, come under economic attack. Because Iran is a major oil producer. The Strait of Hormuz, which has now been closed, is a major transshipment lane for oil. Iran has retaliated by attacking some of the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, all of which are oil producing nations. And it is said that Iran has targeted some of the oil infrastructure. Now when you think about oil from the Gulf no longer being able to come to market, oil from Iran no longer being able to come to market, oil from Venezuela, they say that the infrastructure in Venezuela is now dilapidated and outdated, and it will take significant investment in years to bring it up to speed. You look around the world, oil from Russia, under sanction because of the Russian-Ukraine war. Then you think that I'm now sitting here at Von Radio in idyllic Nevis, where it is peaceful, to be sure, but the air conditioning is on and the lights are on. Well, how you think they're powered? They're powered by diesel, through diesel generators. Diesel comes from the very oil that is now being choked off because of war and rumors of war, because of sanctions, because of conflict around the world. And the result of that is that oil prices have already spiked. And if they continue to rise, you know what's going to happen? The cost to Nevlec of generating electricity is going to rise. The cost to Skelec of generating electricity is going to rise. When the cost of electricity rises, then you and I will be asked to pay more for electricity. Key Bakery, Amri Bakery, Brand Bakery, they all will say to you, well, we use electricity to bake our bread. And so the $5 bread will now have to be $6 or $7. The bossman who takes you to work every day is now going to say, when I go to the pump to fill up, it's now costing me more for my diesel or my gasoline, and therefore I want to add an extra $1 or $2 to your bus fare. Imagine that single mother, 3 school-age children, working 2 jobs to try and provide for her children. More for electricity, more for basic necessities like bread, more for bus fare. Then think about the cost of shipping and the insurance costs. Because shippers are now saying, well, our ships may not be safe. They may be bombed. They may be attacked. And so suddenly the cost of shipping skyrockets. Where's our food coming from? Our building materials? They're being shipped in from Miami. When that cost of shipping goes up, the next container that's coming to Rams or Best Buy or Value Mart, what do you think they're going to do? Swallow the cost? No, they're going to tell you, you got to pay more at the supermarket. And so that paycheck that you were getting, which was already under some strain, is now going to come under greater strain. More people are going to be forced into poverty because somebody, somewhere, decided that war was the answer. Not dialogue, not compromise, but war, conflict, that is the answer. I want our people to understand the point that I'm trying to make. That there continue to be a number of actions and decisions taken outside St. Kitts and Nevis, outside the Caribbean, which have serious consequences for the people of our country and our region. And if, as I predict, this is going to get worse before it gets better, then I feel that we as an island, as a country, we as a region, we as members of this Caribbean civilization, we have now to start to reorient our thinking about development, about sovereignty, about our independence, about how we secure it and how we protect it, and how at the end of the day we provide for our people. In a tumultuous world, in a difficult world, we have to start to think about new ways of doing things. Because the old ways are being cut off systematically. Citizenship by investment. Money used to be flowing down College Street, got like a mighty stream from citizenship by investment. Now the money coming down, trickling. Trickling. The tap is barely dripping now. 55% of our budget gone, poof! What are we to do? I have heard it said often, and I heard even our own Prime Minister repeat it recently, that nobody is coming to save us. Europe, United Kingdom, Canada, you know what all of those governments are now saying? They want to invest more and spend more on defense. That is, more on preparing for war. I look at it sometimes, I say, boy, the cost of 2 ballistic missiles could finance the whole of St. Kitts and Nevis. Just 2. But that is where the world is now. There's nobody out there who's saying, let's help little Nevis. Let's help little Antigua. What they're all saying is they're going to spend more of their budget on war and preparation for war. More on rockets and missiles. I saw just yesterday that President Macron of France is saying that France is going to invest in more nuclear warheads. They estimate that they have already over 200. They want more nuclear warheads. And we here are sitting down in this little island, some of us, as if we are ostriches with our head in the sand. As if we are incapable of rising to the moment, of recognizing that the world is changing by the day. Indeed, some may say by the hour. We, brothers and sisters, cannot continue to do business as usual. You see, Nevis, say what you will about us. But since COVID, when we recognized that the world was brought to a standstill, we decided we needed to diversify away from the heavy dependence on tourism. And whilst tourism will continue to be a mainstay for us, we said we need additional strings to our economic bow. And so we started a movie industry. I was so happy today to see a major publication talk about some recent films done here in Nevis. We just had a 2-part series aired on PBS, Hometowns it was called, which showed Nevis in a beautiful light. Even some who are harsh critics of this government reached out to tell me they were well pleased with what they saw. We have put in place a film commissioner. We've put in place legislation to govern this sector. We're seeking to develop a film industry here by providing incentives and partnerships. We've had a film done here, Pangirl, done by our own Juliet Jeffers, that has garnered critical acclaim and was nominated at a recent film festival in Los Angeles, California. The best short film, I think it was. While it didn't win, it was a remarkable achievement for Little Nevis. That is thinking outside the box and trying to do something new. We went into the Parliament. We passed legislation to increase the tourism development levy from 2% to 3%. A nominal percentage point that we felt, having consulted, would not impact in any negative way our hotels and restaurants, but would bring much needed revenue into the government. Thus far, our predictions have been correct. Our numbers reflect that, with our monthly receipts in some cases. Indeed, for the month of February, the monthly receipts were over 100% more than they were last year. We went back into Parliament. We said we would pass legislation to allow online gaming in Nevis. We did that in April of last year. I then went to the cold, wet climate of Barcelona and attended a conference there. And those who know me know that I hate the cold, but I made the effort. Went to the ICE conference, journeyed all that distance for 2 days to speak at that conference and to promote the Nevis Online Gaming Authority. We are now seeing the momentum there. I had a recent visit from some major players in Curacao who are saying they want to move a significant part of their portfolio to Nevis. That again is government trying to think outside the box, trying to create something from nothing. We have our financial services sector. We have now appointed a new regulator. We have decided that we want to go in the direction of having a forward-facing entity to do the promotion and marketing of Nevis's financial services sector. So we've created something called Nevis Finance. And while we're still fleshing it out, we've now hired somebody to act as the CEO of that entity. I recently traveled to Panama, where I met with the top 12 law firms in Panama to talk to them about opportunities in Nevis for incorporations and trusts. And because of those combined efforts, we saw growth of over 30% in our business last year. When we used to do an average of 5% of the gross business that the BVI was doing in terms of numbers, we're now up to about 13%. And so gaining valuable market share. And I have said very plainly to the world, Nevis is open for business. Again, trying to diversify, trying to create something, trying to use what we have and add to it. As the old people say, put pan put. Trying to create something. That is what we have been trying to do. And we have not ended there. We went out, we negotiated, we brought $1 billion investment in the Destiny project for the south coast of Nevis. And we have said that this project has the capacity to catapult Nevis to the next level of development. Jobs, revenue, infrastructure, port development, hospital development. Significant movement for our people and our little island, and by extension the country of St. Kitts and Nevis. House of protests. Same protest for Four Seasons, same protest for Bank of Nevis, same protest for everything. House of protests. But you know what I found instructive? None of those who are protesting have offered an alternative idea. We then went and we said to the federal government, let's partner on this geothermal project. Let's bring this geothermal project to fruition for the benefit of the people of Nevis and also for the benefit of our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts. Dr. Drew said, yes, let's work together to make it happen. And we have been doing that. The effort is being led by Nevlec, our local electricity company here in Nevis. And I go on record to thank Mr. Albert Gordon, former general manager of Nevlec, and the entire team there. Mr. Errar and all the others. Mr. Ian Ward, who's now retired. I want also to thank Mr. Ernie Stapleton, wrong Ernie, same class in school but wrong Ernie. Ernie Stapleton, Dr. Ernie Stapleton, who was with us as PS and then moved to the OECS, but has been a steady help to Nevis and its geothermal pursuits. I want to thank Stedman Trust and the entire board at Nevlec. I want to thank colleagues in St. Kitts, Congress Maynard. I want to thank Prime Minister Drew for his commitment to making this a reality for the benefit of the country. I want to thank my colleagues in the cabinet who have supported this effort, because that pivot to renewable energy is going to ultimately be the thing that insulates us from these shocks that I spoke about. So the next time they bomb Iran or they bomb an oil producing nation, the Middle East is in turmoil, Venezuela is in turmoil, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis can sit back and say, well, that does not affect our price of electricity, our price of doing business, because we are powered by geothermal, we are powered by renewable energy. And so it insulates us from exogenous shocks. Since COVID, we have doubled down in terms of food production. We have invested in shade houses. In fact, we gave out shade houses to some farmers. And many of them have responded positively. I feel so proud when I go to the supermarket now and I see Paris greens on the shelves. I see local produce done right here on the island of Nevis. All of those have been deliberate efforts by a government that recognizes that the world is changing and that we must become more self-sufficient. The broiler industry we have talked about. The facility to process the birds, that is now under construction after some delay. We are moving forward, and you have a government that is thinking, because the world is changing and we must change with it. We must provide more opportunities for our people. Long ago, when our young people were finished in university in America, they just stayed. They found jobs when they went to Canada, when they went to the UK. Those countries are now tightening up. They're telling you, go home. Go back where you come from. I spoke to the chair of a university in New York just 2 days ago. The Honorable Eric Evelyn and I engaged. And the gentleman said to us that they had struggled in terms of enrollment. You know why? Fewer student visas due to new U.S. government positions and policies. They are telling us they don't want us there. The global north is sending a clear message to us as Caribbean people. Thank you for all the contribution you might have made, but tap home. And it is for us now to recognize that we can't just waltz into America and waltz into Canada and waltz into England like we used to. And if we can't waltz into those countries, then to me my answer is simply, we have a beautiful island and a beautiful country of our own. Let's waltz into Sandy Point, and let's waltz into Brownhill, and let's waltz into Keon and Castle. Government now has to create opportunity at home. When I look at those young people coming out of Sixth Form, coming out of CFBC, what are we to tell them? Sorry? Nothing there for you to do? We have an obligation to provide for them. And that is why when I hear some of the people, making a whole heap of noise, and I say, when I start to examine them, I say, but wait. So many of you have already lived your lives. You've already lived your lives. You already retired. What about the young people? What will be their opportunities? You see, some of us have the benefit of opinions without consequence. We speak loudly. We call into the radio stations. We go on the internet. We say the most vile things because we have the luxury of opinions without consequence. When you sit where I sit, everything that is said and done must be consequential. And people's lives are impacted. So I regrettably do not have that same luxury. Leaders must lead. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take the phones now. It is 9 o'clock. I've been doing my little soliloquy now for an hour. I hope that there are many people out there who wish to speak to us. And I will take your calls at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Let's go directly to the phones and say good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Miss Sheriff.
Good evening, my dear. I've missed you, so I'm happy to hear you.
Last week, Wednesday. That's my school.
Yes.
Prospect. So we late.
Okay, no problem. Well, you're here with us now.
1 Thessalonians 5, verse 16, 17, and 18. Rejoice evermore. Pray without ceasing. In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being back with us and bringing us that scripture. You have over the years been our first caller, so we really appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're taking your calls. 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. I want to see the phones lit up tonight. If you're out there, colleagues, even my own colleagues, call in. Let us know what is going on in your ministries if you're listening, and tell us what's happening. We have a lot of work being done with water. I'm very happy to say that we have just commissioned a 27,000-gallon water tank somewhere in the river there for the farmers, and we're doing a 500,000-gallon tank, I'm told, up in Stony Hill. I hope I'm correct with that information in terms of the location, but we're doing some great, great things in water in Nevis. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Mark.
Yes.
Good night, boy. I want to hear of to be Brantley up there in America. And I like your speeches tonight. Because you know when the king will say if I no fault with Jesus Christ, they say, and the people that want to do good for, they say crucify you. So the more the thing you do, people I say that's not good. So anyway, life is not sure God is good.
Thank you, my brother. So everything good with you?
Everything is everything. Me cool.
All right. Thanks, brother. Okay. Thank you very much for the call, and we continue to take your calls. I'm hoping I don't have to do much more talking because I'm really wanting our people to call in. And as I said, my colleagues, if you're out there, you can call in and report because people want to hear from you too. 869-469-1616 and 1700. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Good evening, my premier.
Good evening to you.
I was so happy to see you on Saturday.
Yes, I was happy to see you too, my dear. How are you? I just got your voice.
I'm good. Nevis nice.
Nevis is nice indeed. We're doing well over here.
Yeah, continue doing the good work.
Thank you, my dear.
Love Nevis.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, love you always.
All right, love you too.
Bye for now.
Okay, bye-bye. Love that caller, and happy that she called in. I did see on Saturday indeed. And caller, if I must say, you look lovely. Looks like you're in the gym because you look fit as a fiddle. So I'm happy to hear you. We're taking your calls. 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. I have been talking about development in Nevis, as I do. Every week I come to report, but before I say anything further, let me go back to the phones. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark. Hello?
Hello, good evening. This is Livingstone Williams.
Yes, Mr. Williams. Good evening to you.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I hear you saying a lot of things this evening.
Yes.
But do you remember you gave an interview, is it in St. Lucia or St. Vincent, and you said that we should look within? You told them that we should look within rather than out, that we should not depend upon outside help?
Well, I have said that repeatedly. We have to be more resilient, and we absolutely have to look within. And I have also said that in looking out, yes, we want foreign investment, but we must also look to our diaspora. So people like you and I, our families who are overseas, we're asking them as well to assist us. So you're absolutely correct on that.
Correct. And then, why is this desperation to bring in Mr. Jensen or whoever, right, to destroy the generational wealth what our forefathers have acquired over the years? Because I see you still have gone back to this falsehood and lie about that the lands have never done anything for the last 100 years. Because I spoke to a gentleman today, and he said when he was a boy, and I don't think he's 100 and odd, and I know I definitely not, that he used to work lands from Brown Hill or up to Saddle Hill.
So, caller, I hear you. And if it's not 100 years and you prefer 50, you prefer 25. Caller, hold a moment. Caller.
I am not caller. I am Livingstone Williams.
Okay. Mr. Livingstone Williams, this is how conversations work. You talk, I listen. I talk, you listen. We both can't speak at the same time because everybody loses everybody in that. So I heard you. I'm now saying to you, whether the lands it question were not used for 100 years, 75, 50, 25, or 10. The reality is, as you and I are now on the phone, the lands are not being utilized for any commercial purpose that adds value to the economy of the island of Nevis. And you say that I am somehow desperate. I am not desperate about anything. I am simply trying to do the best that I can in the position that I have been placed by the people of Nevis to provide opportunities here on this island for them. For them. For the young people who are looking something to do. For our truckers and our backhoe operators and our contractors who are looking work. So, whilst you say that you are opposed to a particular development, which is your right, I don't deny you that right. What I'm not hearing from you or anyone else is, what do you propose as an alternative? How do we generate employment for those 300 young people who are coming out of school every year? 1,500 in 5 years. How do we provide for them so that they don't have to run out of Nevis and try to go into some distant land where now those distant lands are becoming hostile? Those are the hard questions. So we can talk until the cows come home, but at the end of the day, I am trying to find solutions. And many who are just offering opposition have no solutions that they're prepared to bring forward. So you have the luxury of an opinion. God bless you. All of us have the luxury of an opinion. But at the end of the day, you have no responsibility, Mr. Williams, other than to talk. Nobody out there coming out of school is coming to knock on your door to say we want opportunity. I, on the other hand, have a responsibility. And therefore, I and my colleagues who have been elected by the people of Nevis to serve them must lead. We must take decisions. And you may not agree, and others may not agree, but we have to take decisions. And so, we must provide the opportunities for our people. Those who are here, those who want to come back home, those who are studying overseas, those who are our Caribbean brothers and sisters, many of whom are finding a home in Nevis. And to do that, we need government, we need local investment, we need diasporic investment, and we need foreign investment. And that is the simple truth of how we are going to try to work our way in this new world. So, we can argue, we can opine, we can go back and forth. But once we are done and this conversation between you and I is over, guess what? Those young people still need work. And that is our reality, Mr. Williams. So, yes, we have opinions. Yes, we can share those opinions. But those opinions do not change the reality on the ground of what we as government need to do to provide for our people. And we will not always agree. So sometimes we just have to agree to disagree, but to understand that all of us love Nevis and all of us want the best for Nevis. It's just that sometimes we take decisions that everybody will not agree to. And that is just the way things are. Yes.
So, have you finished?
I'm done now.
Right. So now, again, as I say, it seems like you're desperate. By any means necessary, lies, deception, whatever, to get this project to go ahead at the expense of the landowners. Time after time, I have asked you, you talk about, oh, we have had meetings with all the major stakeholders. Have you had a meeting with the landholders, Mr. Premier?
I have not had a meeting with the landowners, but we have had public meetings to which the landowners were free to attend.
No, the question I asked, have you had a specific, just like with the teachers,
but
the school children,
I just answered you.
The law.
I just answered you, Mr. Williams. I said,
had a message. Have you had a specific meeting with the landowners?
Mr. Williams, let me say it again. We have not had a specific meeting with the landowners, but we had public meetings that they were free to attend.
So why was that?
Why was what?
There's no meeting with the landholders. They are not the major stakeholders. Don't you think that if you had had meetings with them, you might have been further ahead?
Well, further ahead in what sense, Mr. Williams? What is it you need me to...
Getting the lands which you require. Because I spoke to Mr. Brand last night, and he claimed 60 to 70%, but then still went on to say that the project you had submitted to St. was given to them as if they had 100% of the land, because even lands which had not been acquired, which you said, the people, when they came to you, you said the condition was they had to have either bought the land or have access to the land. But he said, well, there's lands which we have designated, and the people don't have it.
Mr. Williams, I can't speak to whatever you say Mr. Brand said.
But
You call Mr. Williams.
Mr.
Mr. Williams, I cannot speak. Mr. Williams, you remember what I said about a conversation?
Yeah, but I was talking. And
I am trying to respond to you now.
Right, go on. You respond.
I am saying to you that I cannot speak to what Mr. Brand said or did not say. You called in on a program that I was on last night, and you came with the same story, and I answered you on that program. I said to you that by law there can be no project on any land unless the people own the land or have access to the land. That is as basic as ABC. I cannot do a project on your land, Mr. Williams. So what we have sent to St. Kitts is to say to them that we are comfortable, having had extensive consultations with the people of Nevis, having negotiated and renegotiated, we are now comfortable with what is proposed in terms of this development. And the process now requires that we send it off to Bastia for the federal government and the federal cabinet to take a look at it. And that's where we are. Nobody, Mr. Williams, can do a project on your land unless you sell your land or you lease your land or your land is somehow available to them. And I'm not sure why you keep insisting otherwise, because I answered you last night. The answer has not changed in 24 hours.
Have you finished?
I am finished, yes.
And again, I am saying you say you can't speak to what Mr. Brand said. But I am talking about the deception to St. Kitts, because he said, and again, he is your representative, that he was asked a specific question by the moderator who asked, have lands which have not been sold, have proposals been made with those lands involved in the proposal? And he said yes.
Okay, well, caller, if that is your position, I hear you. I am simply trying to explain matters to you. If you keep reverting to what Mr. Brand says, I can't speak to that. I did not listen to the program. I was on a program of my own, and you asked the same question last night, and I'm giving you the same answer that I gave to you last night. And if you call tomorrow and ask it, I'm going to give you the same answer again. So that's the best I could tell you.
So you don't see the deception and the lies which are going on?
Well, I don't know about any deception and any lies. I have tried to explain matters as plainly as I can to you. If you insist that somebody is trying to deceive you, then that's a matter for you. That is yet another opinion that you have.
The person who I say is trying to deceive me is you, because last night when I asked the question, how much land they have in hand, what your first response was, you don't know.
Caller, be accurate. I wish I had the tape, because what I would say, I said I do not know, because I don't have a running tally of land in my head. I said the last that I was told, they had between 60 and 70% of the land that they were targeting. Did I not say that to you last night?
And again, something as important as that, you don't know?
Caller, you started out, wait a minute, you started by saying that I was somehow trying to deceive you.
Yes.
You then start to deceive the people of Nevis now by telling them that last night I said to you, I did not know. Without finishing the sentence.
I said initially you said you didn't no. But
Caller, I gave you one sentence, you know. If I said to you, I do not know the exact acreage, but it is somewhere between 60 to 70%. Why would you say, I said I did not know? Full stop.
But you should know specifically.
Okay, so now it's I should know.
You said how many intensive consultations you had.
Yes, caller.
That could be something fired in your brain.
Caller, you realize that that could change
Again,
from day
I'm
to
not
day?
caller. My name is Livingstone.
Do you realize that that could change from day to day?
My name is Livingstone.
Let me ask you something.
My name is Livingstone Williams.
You've said that a few times. We heard you. Let me ask you something.
Well,
Do
I
you
would like
accept
to
that
be
the
because
amount
I
of
call
land
by
can
your
change
name.
from day to
I
day?
would love you to call me by my name.
I am asking you. I am asking you a question. Are you prepared
My
to continue with the
name is not-
conversation?
My name is
Okay.
not caller.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next caller because
Thank you.
it doesn't seem like you know what your name is, so you have to keep repeating it. I was trying to get to whether or not you would accept that the amount of land that the people have access to changes from day to day. What you think I'm doing as Premier, calling up every day to ask for how much land you have now? I have an island to run, you know, caller. And so I'm trying to make that clear to you. You're hung up on whether or not your name is Livingston or Williams. That's a matter for you.
No, my name is not caller.
Okay.
You are-
All right. Well, we will move on now and take another call because we
Yes.
have other people
You
who are
do
no
that.
doubt
You
want
do
to
that.
bring something to the fore. So we will move on and we will allow you to think about what you claim to be deception, which I think you're deceiving yourself, to be honest with you. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but if you can't grasp basic concepts when they're explained to you and you keep insisting that you are being deceived, well, who is deceiving who? It could only be that you're deceiving yourself. And perhaps you're doing that because you want to be deceived. Because I don't know. And if there's people out there who don't understand what I said to you, then they can call in and I can try to explain again. But you came last night, you had the same argument. I explained the situation to you. You come back tonight. Same palaver. And I suspect that you will come tomorrow night and the night after. Because you see, you're not listening. You are consumed with whatever it is you have in your mind. And therefore not willing to listen even when matters are explained as simply as they can be explained. How on earth, caller, do you expect that somebody could be doing a project on land that doesn't belong to them? Man, you only need to say that to say, man, that's a trippiness. But yet you keep insisting. Let's go back to the phones and see if anybody else wants to talk to us. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Hello? That caller
Good
doesn't...
evening.
Okay, you're on the mark. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Brantley.
Yes.
Land is capital.
Yes.
Land is real wealth. You people in possession of land, whether in whatever way it is used, they are in possession of capital, real assets, wealth. They are in possession of something that is negotiable. The paper they receive for the land is not negotiable.
It's not?
All they can do with it is spend it.
That's all they can do with it, caller?
suggestion To you
Caller?
would be
Yes, go ahead.
to empower your people industrially.
Caller, can...
In agriculture, agro-processing.
Yes.
In every the beauticians, it is industry, not more service or servitude that is going to build and empower us. I am from the Federation. Actually, I am also saying a project that proposes 10,000 people or 10,000 families on an island of 10 to 13,000 people is displacing the population
and you will also be replaced. It is, in my mind, ludicrous.
So, caller, can I ask you a question?
Yes,
You say land is an asset,
it's capital.
capital. And you say, wait, hold on, caller, hold on. Land is capital, and if you have money, you say the only thing you can do is spend it.
Yes,
So you can't invest money in other things.
spend it.
So let me ask you, you can't take money and put it in the stock market.
Spend it.
You can't
No,
take.
what
Wait, hold on, don't go yet.
are
Don't
doing-
hold on, call. I'm not finished with you yet. You can't take money and buy other land.
Spend it.
Ah, so you
So
can't
what
take money
these
now.
people are
Wait,
doing-
hold on. No. Hold on, because you use the word ludicrous. So let us examine that. If I have land somewhere and I were to sell that land, can I not use that money to then create a business, to buy land elsewhere, to build out real estate elsewhere, to build a home, to build an apartment complex, to buy a business?
Yes.
So what are you really saying to the people?
What
that the
I am
only
saying
wait, hold on again,
is
I tell
that
you,
the
man. I
investors-
tell you, hold on for me. I listen to you.
A minute to know. You say
Wait, hold on a minute. You're basically saying to the people, you're calling in on the mark tonight to say that
What did
land
I-
is the only asset that somebody could have? That's the only capital?
No.
What are you saying
What
there?
I am saying
Yes, let me understand you.
is that the investors are now in the process of transferring the paper to land, which is real capital assets. So what people do with paper, whether you put it in the stock market, is you transfer the paper to wealth that is redeemable.
So you can't use
So
the
you
paper to buy more
transfer
land?
Paper to land, to housing.
Yes.
You put it into something that is now redeemable and negotiable. The paper can only be spent if a wise man would actually use the paper to acquire real wealth. In this case, land. With the land, you can build a shanty, you can build apartments, you can farm, you can do every war part is over land. With land, you have so many options. With the paper, we could buy a house, we could buy a nice car, some nice clothes and travel. Yes, but the wise man, he takes the paper and use it to redeem real wealth.
Okay, caller.
In this case,
Yes.
it is the land
Okay.
which he now will put into operation, like you say, is not in, and build some house
All right.
and sell the house.
Yes.
I am saying, why can't we empower our people in that manner?
Okay.
Why can't we find ways to assist our people to develop the lands
But caller,
in the same way
but caller with
this man is
respect. Caller with
with
respect.
the CIB
Caller.
funds
Caller.
the same way? Why can't we empower our people
Yes.
in another way except to serve? We are not going out of the slave culture. The
Okay.
colonial was changed to neo-colonial.
Caller, you're all over the place tonight.
Yeah,
right?
but it's the same
No. I'm
We
suggesting.
were brought here to serve.
Caller. I said to the person who called earlier, you see, on the show we have a conversation. You can't call in and talk all night and not allow the opportunity for conversation. A conversation means you talk, I
agree.
listen, I talk, you listen. That's how a conversation works.
I agree.
Now you're calling in and you're trying to make this case about land, as if land is the only asset that somebody can have. I am trying to say to you, you say people should be empowered to do something with the land. A lot of people, and it is their choice, want to convert that land to cash because they have a need for the cash. They have a child that needs to go to school, they have medical bills to pay, or in some cases, they have a different investment that they want to make. I do not believe in limiting people's ability to do what they wish with their property. It belongs to them. And too many of us are trying to lecture people and tell people what they should do and shouldn't do. When it is their property. Now, if you had a piece of land, caller, and in the case of these lands at issue, there is no infrastructure there. So these lands, in fact, the biggest thing happening on the south coast is erosion from the Atlantic Ocean. So you have a bit of land in that area. You want to help your child. You want to help your sick mother. You want to invest in a business. You say to somebody, hey, you want my land, give me $1 million for it. And I'm going to use that $1 million and create something else. What is wrong with that? I am going to use myself. Hold on. I'm going to use myself as an example. I had a piece of land that I had bought. I sold that piece of land to somebody and bought a bigger piece someplace else. So was I foolish? Was I foolish to sell the piece of land?
No. What you did actually was convert. You use the land, which is real capital, to increase your personal wealth by, like you say, selling that and acquiring more.
So what if
you did not spend your money to buy car?
Yes, but caller,
it
what
is a land.
But you are making an assumption about what people are going to do with their money. That is not open to you.
An assumption.
You are.
I am saying what can and cannot be done with cash. The best way to use your cash is to invest in real capital.
But that is your opinion.
Me? Oh, so I mean the people no.
But that is your so some people I know have their cash and they have it in the stock market and they say they earn more than if they had it in real estate. That is your opinion. I have just explained to you that I can take one bit of land that I own and convert that land
to more land.
Exactly. So my question to you is, why is it that you assume that if somebody who has land and decides to sell their land, you say, oh, well, they're going to buy a car and clothes with the money? Why must you assume that?
Because, see,
yes,
what you are saying to me is that you use your land to grow wealth. Now, the people we are referring to, after they dispose of the land that they now have, are they inspiring to buy more land? Could they now build a house?
My question is, why not? Why not?
Is to grow. We cannot take what I have. Give me some paper and I grow.
Okay,
rather than using what I have.
All right.
To build on.
So caller, you have made your point, and I don't agree with you, but I understand the point you're making, and we'll just have to leave it there. Thank you. All right, that's
Have a good night.
You too, brother. That's an interesting call, and I think an interesting caller. I don't agree because I see land as an asset. Land is an asset, and you can leverage that asset, whether you borrow, whether you sell, whether you lease. You can leverage that asset. In my case, as I said, I sold one piece of land, and I used the money, the paper, according to the scholar, and I bought a bigger piece. Now, was selling that first piece wrong of me? If I sell land that is currently sitting there, I may be, as they say, land rich, but I'm cash poor. But I need money because I have a sickness, I have some debts, I have a business that I want to grow, I have a business that I want to start, I want to build a home, I want to start some kind of industry, and I have a bit of land there, and I say, you know what, let me convert that, give me the capital now that I need to go and do what I need to do. Why is it that we keep trying to say to people that land is the only asset? Because that is not true. And I'm just not understanding how our people seem to be projecting this thing that if you have land, you're rich. But if you have $10 million in the bank, you're not as rich. The question is, what do you do in terms of your investment? And every wealthy person I know has different assets. They have some cash, they have some money in the bank, they have some land, they have cars, they have business, stocks and shares. Some people even have some cryptocurrency nowadays. They have different assets. We must stop trying to persuade the people of Nevis that land is the only asset, because that is not true. Let's go back to the phones. It's an interesting night tonight. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah, good evening to you, Mr. Host.
Good evening to you.
Public.
Good evening, caller.
I hear you keep saying over and over there is nothing happening on those lands in the south. So let me ask you this question back. Yeah, there are thousands of animals raised on those lands.
No, caller, I don't know that thousands of animals graze on those lands.
All right. Have a good night, you know.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything else to ask, I tell you.
All right. I'm grateful to you, because I'm sure you don't know nothing more than thousands of animals grazing on those lands either. Right? And this is the problem I continue to say. You all call the radio and you all say things just for the sake of saying things. Thousands of animals grazing on those lands. What could go so? Anyway, let's move on. Let's take another call. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Premier Brantley, good night.
Yes, brother. Caller, for some reason I'm not hearing you that well. You could put your mouth closer to the phone. The people want to hear you.
You hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you good now.
Be much better?
Much better, yes.
Yeah. When you make your opening remarks, me really want to start and say, Pass Mark, good night. But then after a few calls, I have to say, Premier Brantley. Premier Brantley, when the caller, you say, Mr. Williams calling, and he asked about the show the night before. You said that, you tell me that the people got roughly about 60 to 7%.
60 to 70%. Yes.
So that mean Gary the figure or the acreage then.
Well, the target, as I understand it, was around 2,400 acres. If they have 60%, it means they have about 1,400 acres.
So they got that.
That's what the last I was told. They had between 60 and 70%. So if they would have between 1,400 and 1,600 acres, somewhere in that vicinity.
Okay, Premier Bradley, what me want to get clear with that.
Yes.
So the area there that the 60%, 60 to 70%, any private land, what they on the outskirts or in between the area there.
I don't know, caller. I would need to see a map. I don't know. I don't have that in front of me.
You see the all this is the confusion. All this is the confusion because
What are you confused about? The question was, how much land do the people have access to? So what is confusing about that? Explain that to me.
Because people up they still got land up there, right? And you say they're you're ready to go as soon as Dr. Joe get it okay.
Yes.
So Dr. Joe the whole up now, you will say, right now, right?
Well, the matter is with the federal government, yes.
Exactly. So this one me ask. So suppose you get the green light tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Tomorrow morning when you wake up, everything come to your favor from the federal. So you're ready for go now. So you call up the excavator and whatnot. Whatever you want to do. This one me go ask now if they can go up there now and start to clear and not offend nobody.
Well, they can only clear their land, caller. And if you're clearing your land, you shouldn't offend nobody.
Okay, so this one me ask again. They start to clear your land, but then forget your land clear now. You have to run for mine because mine probably not the heart.
Caller, every piece of land in Nevis by law must have access. Okay? So you don't have to run on anybody's land in order to get to your land because there has to be some access provided.
Premier Bradley, we believe you know what me say, no, but me believe you know.
No,
exactly
I honestly say you say some people are confused, and I think some people are confusing themselves because the land that the people can deal with must be land that they either own or have leased or have access to.
Me understand all that.
So what? Why? So we're asking me if they will clear them land.
No. You're not get exactly.
Yeah.
I want broad area. But remember, people got lands and so up the different. So me ask you know. Okay, let me put the example of one playfield, the playfield, Warner Park or Grove Park or right. So, me ask you now if the land where the people ain't got is like Grove Park. So, in other words, nobody else got plot of land inside the Grove Park or inside the Warner Park. So, that's not just Warner Park. What me want to know, if what they got right now ready to go, if no other private land are in the midst of that, so they got broad areas. The other private land and just on the outskirts. It's from now for I know.
Caller, as I said, I do not have a map in front of me. But I repeat, that the people can only go, as you say, on land that they own. So if there is Warner Park in the middle, then they cannot build or clear Warner Park because it don't belong to them. And they and Warner Park must have access to it by law.
Remember, me understand.
Well, if you understand all that, what you ask me really? Me not understand what you ask me.
But why you this is still not linked with what me want to get from you?
What is it you want to get from me? Because I'm trying to explain how land works, and you keep asking me questions which, as far as I'm concerned, I can't fathom what you're getting at.
Remember, the government zone. So, Larry, just for the man at the street, if it's not like that, Larry say, go fence off or one wall, I go build. right? When the project ready for start and the land clear off, remember them go put on barricade. So this one may ask you now, if the land where they got when they ready to put up the fence on their land, if no private land now inside of that.
And you know, understand my
land where they got just.
So let me ask you something.
Yeah,
You keep asking the same question over and over. You don't understand the answer.
Me don't understand. Me ask you how. Yeah, go ahead.
The answer remains the same. Wherever private land, that is land that they do not have control over, that land must have access to it. Them can't fence it around. Them can't restrict nobody from going to their land. So if there's land in the middle, if there's land on the side, there's land on the south or the north, they must build around that. They must ensure that those private people continue to have unrestricted access to their lands.
Okay. So let me put them this way then. 5 or 6 individuals got plots in between the 60 to 7%. How the project you go pull off? Well, you got some zigzag fencing, all kind of different. Some this one may ask you.
But I don't understand whether they fence zig or zag. The principle that I have been speaking about for the last 10 minutes with you is the same. The people can only have a project on land that they own or control. And they cannot prejudice anybody else's land. So whether them have to come zig and then zag and then zig back, that is what they have to do. What is so hard about that for you to understand?
Okay, Brantley.
You see, you're confused yourself?
No. Me not confused.
But you said people confused, but you're the only one it seems who...
Brantley, let me ask you one more question.
Yes, go ahead.
Maybe listeners them out, they understand what it is for, you know. They believe that. Me strongly believe that. So let me ask you one more question and then let me take off. Me not get too much trouble tonight. When you see like you're really Mr. Jefferson. But you know, Mr. Jefferson not already in charge. Mr. Jefferson can't really win back the seat there. But anyway, when you got Mr. Jefferson your government, I used to talk big about the coconut project, and I predict how much money I gonna make. Not the coconut project. How the project I come off, Premier Brantley?
I don't have any numbers for you tonight, but I can certainly get some and find out where we are. But I confess I don't have numbers for you tonight.
Okay, Premier Brantley, make a put in the world book of the Guinness Book of Record for at press conferences and so forth and so. As people ask a question, they tell them you not got to say, but you will get back to them.
Caller, let me ask you something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, of course.
If you have a live open session as I'm having now,
yeah,
you think that any question I ask you, you must have the answer?
Not every, but some plenty of question on them as for the leader.
Let me ask you a simple question because I don't understand what you all think. The government is a big institution, you know. If you call in and you ask, how much money did customs collect last week? And I tell you I have to check. You start to say, he not got the answer to them question. What are we? What? Listen,
no,
let us stop. Let us, caller, let me be blunt. Let us stop being foolish.
Go ahead.
Let us stop being foolish. This is not a press conference when you say we will be discussing agriculture. I could understand if you say that and you ask a question about agriculture, then the information should be readily available. On the Mark is an open forum. I don't know what you're going to ask. You did not contact me this afternoon and say, Brantley, I'm going to ask you about coconuts, so get the statistics. You are saying to me, you pick up your phone wherever you are. You call and you ask the premier, how much coconut we sell? And I must have the number readily available to you.
Me no ask how much coconut you sell. Me ask how how the project a go. That's how me ask you know.
Well, what do you mean how it a go? Well, what you mean how it a go? You want to know if the coconut tree them a grow? If them a bear?
Yes, so that me ask you how you go if the project's as successful as how you want.
But how do you measure success if I can't give you statistics? Okay, let me answer you. The coconut tree them bearing and them a grow nicely. But me don't know how much coconut them sell yet. That's a better answer? Come me don't really know what you call it anyway. Let me try somebody else. Because I really don't understand. You all just take up these talking points and run with them.
Make up in the world, Guinness. You're very good. You're very good. You're very good. Doing that.
Okay, caller. Thank you very much. You know,
good.
Yeah.
All right.
I really struggle because it seems to me that there are people out there who figure that you must have the answer to any question that they have to ask. So I must know how many coconuts have been processed because I must have that information in my head. I must know exactly how much land Destiny has acquired because I must check with Destiny every day. I must know exactly how much money customs bring in last week. How many people visited the hospital last week. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, let's be real. And let's be realistic. If I do not have the information, do you want me to lie to you? Do you want me to misrepresent the position? So I tell you, well, 10,000 coconuts have been processed. Then next week now, when I really check, they say, boy, it's 5,000. I have to come back. You know what you say? Oh, he lied to me last week. We behave as if we have no reason and no reasonableness sometimes. I want to know which leader of any government anywhere in the world goes around with all the information, all the statistics in their head, available at the moment's notice to anybody who may call. Well, call, I pray you don't call and ask me how much fish the fisherman them catch last week. Because then I will tell you again, I got to go and check with fisheries. I mean, you know, then we get the response that comes as if somehow I am trying somehow to hide or mislead or whatever. We need to be reasonable as people. And when we engage with each other, engage in a sensible way. Because nobody anywhere in the world, leading any government in the world, could know everything that is happening and have that available at their fingertips. Nowhere. And I don't know, caller, what people are going to call in and ask. So when I don't have the information, I will have to get it and come back to you. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Yes, Mr. Mark. Don't let them stress you out. When he named it? When Perry was ill, then I'm gonna pressure him. And you not let them pressure you. That means they had seen the darkness and they make glad about the darkness. Now they see the light, they're making a kind of crap thing up and they come on the phone. You put a stop into it. Don't go no long talking with them.
All right, caller, I hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much.
Exactly, because you be realistic. Huh? When the street is full of bush, grass, and what you call it there? And the dirt road. Nobody make no donkey, horse, cow, all kind of animals, human walking upon them. Nobody was making no fuss with nothing there. But now they see the light, they have all kind of excuse, they have all kind of thing to talk about. Do not let them stress you. Is that a pressure pot? And you're in a pressure pump.
Thank you, caller.
Yes, you're welcome.
I appreciate you and I appreciate your call. God bless you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay. All right, we're taking your calls. 869-469-1616 and 1700. We go straight back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good night, Mr. Brantley.
Good night to you.
Okay, it's going to 3 months now since you passed the document to the Prime Minister. Did you expect it to take that long?
I did not expect it to take that long because the Prime Minister has taken two positions that obviously were not telescoped. One, he appointed a committee, he said, to advise him on the SSD legislation. And two, he appointed a committee to advise him on the Destiny project. So I didn't anticipate either of those moves. And naturally, if you appoint a committee, you have to give them terms of reference. They have to report back. You have to consider their report. So you are building in delays into the process. So honestly, I didn't anticipate it would be that long at all. Not for a project that is a Nevis project and a project that obviously has had tremendous consultations in Nevis already.
Let me ask you something again. Suppose you refuse to sign that document. Where it leave you and Nevis?
Well, I suspect that if the document is not signed, then we will lose the project.
Wow.
And, you know, that will be the reality of the situation. And we will have to then consider, well, what could have been had we had that project and had that project materialize. Nivisians have been complaining for some time that there has been no significant private investment. We have had a number of smaller projects, but in terms of a major game changer like the Four Seasons was, we have not had that in some years. And so this certainly would, because this is several times the size of the Four Seasons in terms of impact. But if the project is not signed or if the delays continue indefinitely, then I suspect we will lose the project and we will just have to deal with the aftermath of that.
Wow, that is not good for the Nevis, though. That is not good for Nevis. Let me ask something again now. When you start the show, you're talking about all the things that you did, right, in Nevis. And all the time you've been saying you haven't gained your fair share. So you think if you gain your fair share, it'll be way more than what you did? Because I know I've been Nevis and Nevis moving, Nevis on the go. So.
Well, caller, that is why sometimes I say, and when I do it, I don't mean any disrespect to my brothers and sisters in St. Kitts. But if in the last 15 years we collect over $5 billion from citizenship by investment, remember this is not tax money, you know. This have nothing to do with VAT and customs and things. This is just citizenship by investment. If we collect over $5 billion, 8% of that came to Nevis. That means 92% stayed in St. Kitts.
Wow.
Why do you still have water problems in St. Kitts? Why you still renting generators at Skelec?
That's true.
I mean, the reality is that when you look at the situation, Nevis has done well with the little that we got. And you're right, because when we did the calculation, Nevis is owed nearly $1 billion. Had we got the money that we were supposed to get, then we would have been able to do so much more in Nevis. But God is good, and we continue to do the best we can with what we have.
Well, you're doing well. Nevis doing well. But let me ask something. You getting your fair shares yet?
Well, remember we came to an arrangement now with the new federal government that we would do 75%, 25%. 75 to St. Kitts, 25 to Nevis from the citizenship by investment. The problem that we have is that now that that arrangement is in place, the amount that is coming in from CBI is very low. So Nevis is still not benefiting as we would have benefited when we were bringing in 600 and 700 million.
Okay.
You understand? Because if you were getting 25% of 600 million, then that works out to what, 150 million?
Okay. And you could do a lot more.
You could do a lot with that. Right? Now we're getting 25%, but if it's only 50 million coming in, then 25% now of 50 million is just what? 12 million? 12 and a half million? So you see the big difference now. So it's not, we were always advocating for a percentage because we said when the income is high, both islands will benefit, and when it's low, both islands will suffer. But when it was high, we could not get the percentage that we asked for. In fact, the percentage that had been agreed under the previous administration. They kept giving us a fixed amount, a fixed sum every month. Hold that. And so now that the percentage is implemented, the pie is much smaller, so we still lose out.
Mark, you're getting a lot of fight down with this Destiny project, though. I feel the Prime Minister need to sign that thing, let you know how you stand. You know?
Well,
then you can move on.
Well, the project is going to benefit not only Nevis, The project is also going to benefit St. Kitts significantly. It's going to benefit the whole country. I tell people that when the Four Seasons Resort in Nevis was closed, American Airlines cut back the number of flights to St. Kitts. That speaks volumes in terms of what Four Seasons contributes to the national economy. When you see guests from Four Seasons either arriving or departing, all them taxis up RLB working. That is the level of contribution that a property in Nevis makes to the economy in St. Kitts and therefore by extension to the economy of the Federation. So a project like this is going to transform the whole of St. Kitts and Nevis. Yeah. So the Prime Minister has his right to look at it. He is a leader. I have to respect that. But I am hopeful that they will expedite their consideration so that we can know whether we're going or we're coming.
Yeah. It take long though. It take going to be in 3 months.
Well, the
couple of weeks, then be 3 months.
Yeah, the 23rd of this month will be 3 months. Yes,
3 months. That's long.
Yeah. All right.
Hi, man. Thank you, man.
Thank you very much, caller. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have perhaps a time for one more call. We have 3 or so minutes left, and if there's somebody out there who wants to say something to us, we can certainly. Let's take this call. Caller, you are our final caller. Go ahead.
Yes, good night, Mr. Premier.
Yes, good evening.
I just want you to just walk me through this thing a little bit, make sure I understand it. You have the SSD legislation.
Yes.
And you have the Destiny Project.
Yes.
Now, the legislation is the law of the land. And so my understanding is that the project has to fit into that legislation.
Yes.
Let's assume after everything has been done, those billionaires find a loophole. And you could always go back to the House of Assembly and make the amendment.
Yes.
But the problem that I have, if they are benefiting from that loophole, they have the means to find the best lawyers and stuff to challenge it. So how would we deal with that?
Well, we have access to good lawyers too, you know.
So we will go. Can we go back to the House of Assembly and make a second amendment?
We can amend 100 times if we need to amend 100 times.
I just wanted to be clear on that because
there's no limitation on how many times you can amend legislation.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear on that.
Yes.
Because you must have they have the means, and we may have a little means, but they have greater means than us. So we want to be able to protect the country, because if they can take us to the cleaners, they will.
Right.
Just wanted to be clear that we can always go back to the House of Assembly and make a second amendment.
Absolutely, caller. Right. We can go back to the House as many times as we need to go back
until we get it right
and make amendments. So if there's something that was missed and we need to amend, we have the right to do that. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the call. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are at 9:59 according to my tally here. This show has been very interesting tonight. I am sorry that some of my colleagues didn't get the chance to call in, but perhaps on another show they may take advantage of that opportunity to update about what is happening. I didn't even get the chance to talk about the airport, to talk about some of these projects, but I am grateful for all of those who called, all of those who participated in the show, to regular callers, and we had some who aren't regular callers, but nevertheless, we spent time with them, and I'm grateful to all of them. Thank you all who called and were part of the show. I'm truly grateful to you, and I trust and hope that we continue to keep the flame of freedom of expression alive in the country. And this show will always stand for respectful dialogue between our people. That's our show. The banner struck up. It means we have to go. This show is rebroadcast tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse, the Voice of Nevis, One Radio. Thank you, good night, and God bless you.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company.